Hello, it's been a while. I don't know if I would say that I'm back for good, but I'm back for now, we'll say that. What happened since the last time I was on here? I turned 29, none the wiser. Nothing else has really changed. I have a few trips planned, which I'm excited about. Gives me some hope in these dull times. Obviously I've been reading a lot. I've been reviewing a lot of books and buying a lot of books, but we'll pretend like I never said that last part. I want to talk to you about Outlander. Today I want to talk about Outlander. Specifically, I want to talk about how Outlander compares to the show now that I've read the book. So I did something that's maybe frowned upon a little bit in the book community. I did watch the show before I read the book. I watched the show for the first time about 3 years ago, and I tried to pick up the book shortly thereafter, and I wasn't able to get into it because it felt like it was really overly wordy and descriptive, and I was reading it on my phone, which I'm sure didn't really help, but now I am giving it a second chance. I've been doing a group read on Instagram, or Bookstagram rather, and it's definitely a different experience, and I do recommend reading it with a group of people rather than individually because there's a lot to unpack and a lot to talk about. Where do I even begin? First of all, I have to preface this by saying I do think the show is just a little bit better, like a smidge. The littlest smidge possible. The show is better than the book, in my opinion, and I'll explain why. First of all, I think that the book does do a good job capturing Claire's thoughts as she time travels. I feel like in the show, it's very sudden, and then she just completely envelops herself in this 1700s lifestyle, and yes, she has like thoughts about Frank and going back, but I feel like after, spoiler alert, don't watch this if you haven't read the books or seen the show, after she marries Jamie is when she just kind of has no regard for the future or trying to get back to the present time or anything like that. And she accepts her fate. Whereas in the book, yes, we're not really getting much of Frank because it's all from Claire's perspective, obviously. But in the book, we get a lot of Claire's thoughts and you really feel her indecision in marrying Jamie and staying loyal to Frank. And I think that it just really helps drive home the point of like, she is stuck in this century that she can't get out of. I think it captured how desperate she was to get back a little bit better, just a tad bit. Something else I think the book does really well is it really captures the sense of humor of Jamie and the other Scotsmen, and the show does this too to some extent, but I feel like this gives us a little bit more depth in terms of Jamie's character and his personality and sense of humor, which I liked. I know I'm pointing out all these great things about the book, and I've said that the show was better, and it is better, but I do want to keep going with some positives about this book. The descriptions of Scotland, I think, are, I wouldn't say unparalleled because I really haven't read that many books that are set in Scotland, but the way that the Scottish Highlands are described by the author, I think really serve well to put you in that setting, and it only reinforces the point that I really would like to travel to Scotland one day. The show is better because obviously you get to see the beauty of Scotland in real life. I'm assuming that's where they actually shot, and I think they did, but I could be wrong. And that visual is completely, like, there's nothing like it. I haven't seen a show with as many beautiful visuals as there are in season 1 of Outlander. I think the soundtrack also is really good accompaniment to the TV show. The songs in that first season really help bolster the scenery and the interactions between the characters, and it makes for really good study music in the background. Another reason why I like the show better is because I think it actually is really well paced, and it does a good job of condensing the book so that it doesn't feel as lengthy and drawn out. The book is great, but it's so wordy and descriptive that it could be cut by about 100 pages and not a lot would be left out. I think if it had a little bit more like fantasy time travel elements to it, then I would be more forgiving of the length. But because that wasn't the case, I think that it's a little bit too long for me. The show was a perfect adaptation of it, and it's pretty faithful without sacrificing too much of the content of the book. As a matter of fact, as I said earlier, it has a lot of scenes of Frank that we don't get in the book because it's all from Claire's perspective. And I think that that helps the viewer of the show feel more of a connection to Frank and feel that loss more deeply. The show is also amazing because I think it nailed the casting for every single character. Again, I watched the show first, so I had no idea what to expect for the characters based on like how they were described in the book. But when I read book 1 and I saw how Myrto was described, how Dougal was described, and Colum and Jamie and Claire. I think they nailed like every single person, and Frank / Jonathan Randall too. I mean, with the deep lines on his face and everything, like down to every little like pore on their skin. I think they really nailed the perfect actors for each character. And that's hard to do in a show because usually, you know, you have a few people who are watching it who aren't really satisfied with the main character or an important secondary character. But I think in this instance, everyone does such a great job portraying who they're supposed to portray that I now can't separate the actors from the characters in my head. I think overall they're both really strong. The show wins out for me just a little bit. The show just has a slight advantage to it that I think serves well for any viewer, whether they read the book or not. Like I said, I didn't read the book before watching the show and I understood it perfectly well. I'm reading book 2 right now and I'm actually really liking it. I know, or I've heard that it's not really everyone's favorite or anyone's favorite. I don't really have any problems with it so far. Season 2 wasn't my favorite season, but to be fair, I don't think any season would top season 1. It was just such a strong start. While I understand that these characters and the plotline has to progress in some way, the beauty and originality and creativity behind season 1 and book 1 I think are unmatched so far. But I'm excited to see how the books read. I hope that book Brianna is better than the show Brianna because I am not really a fan of her. But to be fair, I have not yet watched season 5 in its entirety and I heard that she's a lot more tolerable in season 5, so we'll see. That's all. I hope I have another video for you all soon. I definitely have a lot of books to talk about, but not a lot of time to talk about them, so I'll try to film again very soon. Thanks for watching. Bye.